Do you talk too much in class? Janet Clinton of the University of Melbourne in Australia has been doing research around teacher talk. And what she found is that on average, in developed countries around the world, teachers ask an average of 200 questions per day, and students ask 2 questions per student per week. Now here's the interesting thing about Janet Clinton's research. Some of her PhD students, including Sophie Murphy, who's also at the University of Melbourne, they have found that what happens is that students, your accelerated students or your high achieving students, love when you do all the talking. Why? Because they can pick up on the things that are probably going to be tested. They can weed out what's important and what's not. They can pick up the nuances of those important things that you're saying. Your struggling learners, however, they don't like that you talk so much. They wish that they had time to talk it out with peers. Why? Because it gives them the opportunity to process the information. It gives them the opportunity to hear it in their own language from their peers, as opposed to sometimes the bigger educational words that we may use as teachers. So you're probably thinking to yourself, how do I know if I'm talking too much in class? Well, there are a couple of things that you can do. Number one, you can look up the visible classroom. Janet Clinton has been involved with this, as has John Hattie, somebody I work with as a visible learning trainer. Look at the visible learning classroom, and one of the things that they can do is by downloading the app, they can get a sense of how much you're actually talking in the classroom. The other thing that you can do is start thinking about different teaching strategies. This is the deal for all of us. I mean, I've been in education for well over 20 years now. I taught for 11 years. I was a principal for 8. I've been running workshops for 5. Even knowing all of this research, sometimes I find it very difficult for me to stop talking. So I've had to really look up different strategies to be able to use in the classroom that are going to be much more beneficial. So you're probably wondering, what strategies? Well, John Hattie's research, something that involves over 251 influences on learning, and a 0.40 effect size equates to a year's worth of growth for a year's input. It's what we call the hinge point. What he found is that there's some high impact teaching strategies that work really well for students and teachers. One of those is reciprocal teaching. Now recently, Doug Fisher and Nancy Fry, the amazing Doug Fisher and Nancy Fry, actually wrote an article for educational leadership published by ASCD on reciprocal teaching. Another one that they looked at is the jigsaw method. So Fisher and Fry looked at the jigsaw method, and the article in Educational Leadership actually comes with a video on how to do it, which I think is wonderful. I've actually used it in workshops. Now, micro-teaching is a really interesting one. It's been around for a very long time. And when Hattie did a synthesis of the research around micro-teaching, he found that it had an average effect size of 0.88, which is more than double the hinge point of 0.40 that equates to a year's worth of growth for a year's input. What we know from the research, especially research from Janet Clinton or the University of Melbourne, is when teachers actually understand how they're teaching, they see transcripts of the words they were using, or they see a video of how they were teaching. That self-reflection with evidence, because the video or the transcript acts as evidence, teachers have been more likely to change the way that they teach. This whole idea of teacher talk is something that I've written about before for my blog for Education Week. And one of the things that I found is that in the people that read it, they actually came back saying, I do talk too much in class, and I already told you that I've been guilty of this as well. But they're not always sure how to change it. Maybe diving into one of those different teaching methods that I talked about earlier will help you do that. Thank you for your time.